Let's go, Ding. We are back. Smack Talk taking place every Wednesday. You know what time? 6 p.m. on the West, 9 p.m. in the East. We've got an incredible show lined up for you today. We've got one Sinn Bodhi, the recruiter for the wrestlers in the Power Slap, that's going to kick off the show. And to not be outdone, we have got two of the champions from Power Slap number 13. One, Mr. Anthony Blackburn, is going to be joining us later in the show, as well as Dane V. Ernest. And if I'm correct, Mr. One Aaron Turner, who we haven't heard from in a little while, is going to make an appearance as well from Oregon. We'll catch up with him as I hear there's a lot of stuff in the works with Aaron. The heavyweight division is an exciting division. We see a lot of movement taking place. We got some clarity at Power Slap number 13, and looks like we're going to get a lot more clarity come Power Slap number 14. Ding, recapping the week that was. You glad to be home after the busy week?
Yeah, man, it was a crazy week, like a roller coaster. There's so many cool things that we got to do. And, you know, to be honest with you guys, I don't think we get to enjoy them in that moment. I think it's all kind of in retrospect. We think about it and the things that we accomplished a week ago or so. And it's pretty cool. It's like a lot of pinch me experiences. So really happy to be back, of course, with the family, as I'm sure you are. Yeah, we got a stacked up show. And I think our first guest got a lot of stuff to say, so I'm excited to see what he's got. Yeah,
let's get into it. Sin, how you doing, my man?
I'm good. How are you guys doing?
We're doing really good. Okay. Can you hear me okay?
I got a face for radio, so I'm just trying to get the camera in the best angle possible. I don't know if I have a good side. I've got two sides. Both are not very good. So.
It don't matter, man. You're in the wrestling business for a reason. They don't pay you to look good.
That's right.
Awesome, man. Well, it was honestly nice to meet you in person, to see the personality that you are. I can say you're the exact same person on camera as you are in person. So it's definitely, an homage to you. And this was the first time that we got to see your hard-earned efforts put on display up there in Power Slap at number 13. I know the matches were on the taped undercard. However, we have seen some of the releases. I mean, right off the bat, Mr. One Stunt Marshall and Dante Smiley. I mean, I don't even know what to say. What's it like being in your position where you recruited both these guys and you got a personal relationship with both of them? And like, did you kind of have like a holy shit moment? This is what I just signed all these guys up for.
So I think it was weird. Like I was kind of joking with Erica and Frank, saying like, you know, I've performed in front of thousands of people. Once upon a time, I've even performed in front of 100,000 people, which was awesome. But it did not emotionally hit me the way it did being in like the pre-tape room with like, 100 people watching like my guys and girls. Like I felt like a proud papa, and I felt everything. Like it's like that whole, the dad cliche, like this is going to hurt me more than it's going to hurt you. Like I felt everything they were going through, and I wish I could have sort of magically endured for them. It was weird. Like I was just hoping that they would be okay and do well. And they all are big guys and big girls. They all know what they're signing up for. But at the same time, you still have that, you're kind of in dad mode and in coach mode. And weirdly too, like on a sort of a sidebar, like I talked to Bordeaux and Kionis after the pre-tapes. I pretty much ran up and gave him a hug. I just props to you guys for I watched you guys the whole time as the coaches, and they were clocking everything, giving tips and advice, and being, being that just awesome corner guys. And they really, really give a shit about the guys and girls that they're coaching and stuff. And I thought that was so badass of them. Like they could easily phone it in or whatever, or they could hate on, whether newbies as wrestlers or newbies as anybody. They weren't. They were, every bit of knowledge they had, every bit of any, just emotional support, just giving them like the little pep talks or giving them little tips and advice and technical corrections and different things. Like they were just all over it. And I just so much respect for those guys and everybody there, but just especially as the coaches, kind of from a coach to a coach, it was really cool. Like we were kind of joking, for me to perform in front of thousands of people, that's like being in an action movie. It's like being Rambo. Like it's just explosions and it's fun and you're having a crazy time. But as a coach, it's more like some romantic comedy where everything's pulling at your heartstrings and you just want to see your kids do well, that kind of a thing. So super props to Brandon and Isaiah. Those guys are badass. And but yeah, going back to all my guys and girls, like I was just proud papa and just hoping that they would do good. And I picked, people for a reason. Like I didn't just randomly pick a bunch of wrestlers. Like I cherry picked these guys and girls and a lot other ones as well. But those were the ones that they got picked to be kind of brought to the dance, so to speak. And so I liked everybody that they competed against just fine, but at the same time, those are my guys and my girls, and so the ones that sort of really emotionally hurt when it was like my guys versus my guys, kind of like the Dante and Stunt. Because I just thought for me, it's a win-win because, somebody's got to win, somebody's got to lose. And they both, they're big cats, grown-ass men. They know that. But at the same time, like, the guy that's losing is still getting a pretty awesome payday. So that's cool. So Dante, got to feed his family really well in a way that a lot of guys don't get the opportunity to do, to make that much in one night. And then Stunt, he got the winner's share of the purse, which is awesome, twice as awesome. And then he got a bonus, which I want to say is double as awesome, So like super proud of him. And weirdly, so Dante is a much more experienced, seasoned wrestler. And he's like a CrossFit guru, and he can do all sorts of crazy stuff. Like he's like Spider-Man. Mm-hmm. But Stunt put himself on the map the other day. We cracked the door for him, and that motherfucker kicked it in. He slapped it in. Really, he just wound up, and he has that awesome southpaw mid of his. And I think I'm not going to pretend to be a slap coach. I'm not competed in it, so I wouldn't feel right being like trying to coach them on the technicalities of this and that. Like I know what it's like to be hit. I know what it's like to be hit hard, but I'm not a slap expert per se. But I know a thing or 12 about getting hit and hitting back. And I think what Dante did, in my experiences, I think he just kind of put his chin way too far out there, and he looked a little too relaxed. Like he didn't look like he was bracing for it. He looked like he was just going to eat it and then return fire. Mm-hmm. And I think he was too loose for his own good. And I think, all the lessons that the coaches gave him beforehand and afterwards, and the actual experience of stepping up to the plate and getting waffled, I think that's, going to bring a different Dante Smiley back, because he is a workhorse and he made no excuses, and I would see people online, really, really giving him props just for having the courage to step up. And I saw a lot of idiots hating on him, saying, "Oh, this guy," blah, blah. Like any dummy that wants to be an armchair quarterback or a troll and just hate on anybody for just taking a chance on something, this or anything else. Mm-hmm. We can see a shitty comment and then it's gone. But those people that are giving the comments, they have to live with themselves. They're stuck with themselves, in their little obtuse, little cowardly lives. So that's how I kind of feel about that. But I was super proud of Stunt. Like that motherfucker put himself on the map. He's got promoters calling him and this and that. And I had his biggest thing is trying to, get out of his day job to make sure that he has time to, to be allowed to go do power slap. So cross your fingers on all that stuff. And but yeah, I thought he did an awesome job. He's a clever guy. He's a fun, flamboyant guy. He's a hardworking, tough son of a gun.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you kind of framed it for me perfectly because, I'm not going to give away too much, but the wrestlers kind of batted 500 in win losses for these undercard fights. I'm not going to give away too much of what hasn't been released from the promotion. But one of the biggest critics against Dante has seemingly been that he wasn't ready. He did embrace, and there's been some questions circling on social media as
they said he wasn't ready and he didn't what?
That he didn't clinch, embrace.
Oh yeah. I'm sorry, the volume is still a little bit weird on this, so I'm trying to. Yeah. I got to stick like a horn of plenty in my ear and come close to my screen so I can hear you guys, or get like a seashell or something so I can hear you guys. But
yeah, so I was just saying, there's some critics saying that the wrestlers didn't have enough time to truly prepare for Power Slap 13. Do you believe that to be true?
Well, I mean, scheduling, like the actual physical scheduling, it is what it is, and they're things move along at a pace, and you got to keep up with that pace. But again, like wrestlers are used to getting hit, and they're used to getting hit hard. yeah, there's, the story, sports entertainingly embedded into whatever dangerous athletics that they are doing, but they're used to getting hit. And if somebody wants to say, well, they're not used to getting smacked in the face. Yeah, we are. We're used to getting all sorts of crap done to us. So I thought, for the most part, guys would be ready for that sort of a thing. And also too, I think it will be to the wrestler's advantage to be in front of like a big crowd and not just the pre-tape stuff. I think the average bear might be a little bit nervous to be in front of people, but the wrestlers feed off of it. So I think, Star Marshall going onto the main card, with live people, he's going to lap that up, like he is going to use that as fuel. And I saw the first combine that where Michael and I met. Saw a lot of big, strong, guys and girls and all that stuff. But as soon as they were asked to stand up in front of everybody and say their name and where they're from, a lot of them, I could hear their knees knocking, like their knees were like, just knocking together, because a lot of humans don't like public speaking or don't like to be in front of a whole bunch of other humans, like, with all eyes on them. Like it's just a human thing. Whereas I think a performer, whether you're a wrestler or a rock star, an actor, or whatever you are, you're used to a live crowd and you're kind of feeding off of that. So to me, that is a wrestler's advantage. And again, not to make any, confusion about like when I first talked to you guys, when I was talking to, on Talk is Jericho and stuff, I wasn't making light of any of the power slap competitors, wrestler or otherwise, saying like getting hit takes some balls, just standing there and letting somebody tee off on you, like even with the techniques and the rules and the do's and don'ts and all that stuff. But yeah, I think for sure, obviously, seeing as Dante lost that match, obviously he's got some game plans to reconfigure and this and that, but it's not for lack of working hard, and zero excuses out of that guy. So I mean, how can you not respect somebody that's get right back on the horse, made no excuses, dusted himself off, has to self-analyze, realize what he did right, what he did wrong, and keep on trucking. Like that's a respectable attitude and a respectable work ethic. Just a righteous human, as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah, I mean, outside of Stunt Marshall, who is your biggest surprise from the wrestling standpoint?
My biggest surprise, well, in a positive light and in a negative light, I was thinking, Haley J is so fun, and she's such good TV. She's gonna get either people really liking her or really hating her. She's gonna have her fans and she's gonna have her haters. But I mean, she's good TV. People are gonna dial in to see what happens to her, good, bad, or indifferent. And I thought, if she can just get by the first round of it and kind of like soak it up and kind of channel her, her inner badass or whatever. And she did, and she kicked ass. So I knew she would do well, but I was very happily, pleasantly surprised to see how well she did, because she took the bull by the horns and she owned it. Everybody in some degree, I was surprised at, good, bad, or indifferent, just seeing like when I didn't think Juicy would get rocked on that first one. And then he woke up, he took that first shot, went, okay, that's what this is. All right. And then he fired back, and I was joking with Erica. I'm like, hey, do you guys reinforce this building before Juicy and Micah, get down? Like, I'm like, do we have life jackets, or like what's going on for this building? Like, what if this building falls in the ocean? Even though we're in the middle of the desert, Juicy and Micah could have brought that building down. So I was just like, oh, okay, here we go. But I mean, that was awesome. Like, that was so good. Mm-hmm. And I think a negative surprise was how Mecha Wolf won. I know Mecha Wolf, and he doesn't want to win like that. He doesn't want to win on a DQ. Of course, winner share of the purse is nice, but, just like Dante, he didn't get a chance to fire back, so I know that's going to keep him extra hungry, extra motivated. And to Hobby's credit, Hobby came out of nowhere. He had, I don't know if he for sure had the hardest hit that they recorded at this combine for his size bracket, his weight bracket. but I think pound for pound, he probably had the hardest hit out of all the guys. And he's like a quiet sort of like kind of sneaks up on you where you don't really, he's just so calm and quiet and just, I don't know what it is, but it was like, and he just had a good hand on him, you know, and he had a good leverage, like he had a long reach. You know, Mecha Wolf is jacked, but he's a little shorter than Hobby was. And yeah, we got a rude awakening, and again, I think Mecha Wolf will only use that as fuel. Like he's itching to come right back. Mm-hmm. So I think the protocol is that he'll be off for a show or whatever, but hopefully we'll see him in October. Yeah, I don't officially get I don't get to say on what the matches are, but I'll kind of get a heads up on things or whatever, and I'll of course be asked like my input. But I would certainly be pushing for Mecha Wolf and Dante to be back, and especially now that they both, you know, got their toes wet, realized like, okay, this is what it is, and they both, neither of them were apprehensive about it all. They're both like, yeah, we want to be back yesterday. So that's the kind of like go-getter attitude they have. And I think a lot of time for anything, you know, for any kind of combative, whatever. I think the guy or girl that has the more dog in the fight, that's maybe where the money's going to be, you know?
Yeah. You know, Sin, I think one match you're missing that I think both guys are stock risers is Johnny Magna and Ryan Kenny.
Absolutely. That was another one that really, that kind of really emotionally drained me because it was my guy versus my guy. You know, it wasn't my guy versus a stranger, kind of like, or somebody that I'm just getting to know. Excuse me. And both those guys showed the world that they can eat it with a smile. You know, Erica and I were discussing it, and I thought that Magna had, you know, a more sort of like a faster, smoother swing, but I thought Ryan could eat it better. I thought Ryan would be able to endure a lot better. But Magna surprised me on his durability, and Ryan surprised me on his speed, and like he wasn't just a strong guy. I mean, he put it in there pretty good. And you know, everybody was cool backstage, but there was animosity with those guys. You know, they were just wanted to best each other. They didn't have any ill will to each other, but they certainly wanted to best each other, you know. And like Magna literally walked up to me, and he wanted to get under Ryan's skin and everything. And Ryan being Canadian, he literally was just like, "Can I wear a Fuck Canada t-shirt on stage?" And I was just like, "No, you can't." You know, like, you could try to get it past the equipment guys, but it's not going to happen. And Erica was like, "Certainly not." You know, so he wanted to get under Ryan's skin, and he doesn't mind making enemies. He doesn't mind, you know, any of the, you know, Canadian fans. He doesn't mind pissing them off, you know. And Ryan just, you know, a straightforward, you know, take no shit, honest kind of dude. So he was just like, "Bring your worst, bro." You know, so they were taunting each other all week. They were sort of on each other pretty good. And I think I felt it more than both of them, to be honest. Again, it's just like the guy that brought them to the dance, recruited them. I just felt like proud pop on both of them. And I was just like, oh man, it's going to hurt me a lot more than it's going to hurt you.
Yeah, you know what? I think overall, I know Corey called it, you know, kind of batting 500, but I think overall, you know, especially when you have two guys going up there who are both wrestlers, I think for the vast majority of performances were probably better than most people expected. So kudos to you for the recruitment. Very excited to see these guys in their these guys and girls in their future. I think Holly Hood's a special one when it comes to a division that is theoretically going to have a title introduced here in the next few months. You know, I would expect maybe October or towards the end of the year.
Dude, like I said, man, I didn't just pick just wrestlers for the sake of wrestlers. Like that's nowhere in my contract does it say I have to just recruit wrestlers. They hired me to recruit interesting competitors that they thought would, you know, sell tickets and pique fan interest, and, you know, be good TV, be good competitors. And and a lot of the guys and girls happen to be wrestlers, but again, there's some wrestlers that couldn't fight their way out of a wet paper bag. I wouldn't even ask them, because I would think that they would just get their head sent out into outer space. You know, like I asked the guys and girls that I thought, you know, have that grit, have that little healthy dose of crazy, and you know, or honor that they just want to feed their family. Like I think like Dante is a lot like me. Like I would do just about anything to make sure my wife and my daughter and all my critters on my funny farm were fed and have a roof over their head, and you know, all that stuff. So I think some guys are looking at it like that. Other guys were looking at it as like fame and fortune and whatever. You know, everybody's got their own sort of you know, things that speak to them. You know, like their own interest in being part of this. And but yeah, there's some wrestlers I know that are just, they're not even human. They're killers. And then other ones are just totally wimpy, fluffy, you know, diva dudes, you know, whatever. You don't know what you're getting, because the performance is the performance. But what is behind that performance, a lot of fans, people just don't realize, if that makes any sense. So like everybody I picked, like they certainly have that grit.
Since you said that, Sin, I'm going to put you on the spot.
Yeah.
And this will be the last question before I let you go. Of course, we always appreciate you joining us.
My pleasure.
Your insight is very valuable. I want you to tell me one wrestler who's currently wrestling on TV, whether that's AEW, WWE, one of those promotions, that looks tougher than they are.
Half of them. If I gave you a specific answer, just because I am still in that industry and I coach and I produce and I perform, all it will do will ruffle the diva feathers of whatever idiot I point out, and they'll just make my life miserable, because they won't come to my, get in my face. They will just go behind closed doors and stick the shiv in through the shadows, and then just do it gutless like that. So I'll just say half. I'm rounding down gently. You know, there's awesome performers, and again, that doesn't mean that they're tough guys or tough girls, because it's a performance. You know, you don't need to be. You just need to be. You need to look like you are. That's you know, my line of work being in wrestling. And whether you are tough or you're not tough, if you can convey it entertainingly, that's sort of what gets you that's one of the big factors. Excuse me, that gets you the spot.
Well,
and then there's other guys that are, there's other guys that are super tough, and they don't get a lot of TV time for whatever reason. You know, it is what it is. But yeah, I could get I'm here on my little farm. I got plenty of shovels. I don't need to bury myself and just say, oh, so and so and so and so. But you know, it's funny who's got the fans fooled. I'll tell you that. Like, kind of in that inside baseball, like, this guy, people think this guy is a tough guy. Give me a fucking break, you know, like, you know, whatever. But then again, are they fun to watch? Yeah, of course. There's certain guys and girls that are super fun to watch. But again, and I don't want to get out of here without mentioning Zoe Dubois and Big Al. Like, both those ladies kicked ass. Like, those are two of the girls that are, you know, they're not big superstar famous wrestlers, but those two girls have some grit. I'd feel bad for some, you know, bigwig wrestler girl that thought they could, you know, really fight and piss off one of those two girls. Like, those two girls could get down. So I will give. I'd rather lean towards the positive side of it, instead of saying who's a shithead or who's a weakling. I'd rather talk about who's talented and who's, you know, who's got skills. Like, again, and going back to the whole thing, what we're talking about, power slap. Like, to me, one of the most impressive people I met in this power slap adventure so far is Pana. Like, that's a fucking stud athlete. He's got a good head on his shoulders. It's fun to watch. I wouldn't want to get hit by him, you know, like, big, scary, intimidating looking dude, you know, but behind closed doors, you know, we had wonderful conversations, and he was very interested in what's good for business. How are we gonna evolve this business? How are we gonna punch up instead of punching down? You know, how are we gonna not just, you know, motherfuck each other and then be petty and obtuse. How are we going to build this? How are we going to grow everything? And like, you know, he's like this room tonight was sold out, you know, Friday night at Power Slap 13 was sold out, you know, wall to wall. And he's like, how do we make this better? And we're bringing in a new crop of guys and girls to up the ante. He's like, fuck yeah, let's go. He's ready to put his money where his mouth is, you know? And I respect the hell out of him. And a lot of those guys were so cool, but yeah, my standout guys for sure, definitely Pano and Brandon and Isaiah. Like, those guys are just awesome.
Awesome, Sin. We appreciate you joining us, my man. We're running a little bit here behind, but great catching up with you, getting to hear your insight, your thoughts, your feelings. It's always valued. I mean, we could do a whole show just you. Next time we book you, just tell us, don't book anybody after me. I'm the main event. I've been around, and we'll have the whole
absolutely hour. No problem. And I could go on for days about just how proud I am to be a part of Power Slap and how proud I was of all the guys and girls, like the ones that were my gets. And everybody kicked ass. Everybody, you know, put their heart and soul on line. Like, that's fucking awesome. Like, I think Power Slap is such a pure form of mono-y-mono, woman-o-y, woman-o, you know, like, it's awesome. You know, I'm thoroughly hooked, and I had a blast. And just because a lot of those guys and girls were mine, that's what was like, oh, I can't believe, you know, like, just felt like I was getting, you know, drop kicked in the heart every time my guys and girls were up and just making sure they were good, and they all kicked ass. They were all awesome. So fuck yeah, I'm proud of them all.
Awesome, Sin. We appreciate you, my man. We'll have you back here real soon. All right, take care. And I mean, if not, you going to New Orleans? We're gonna see you there.
I'll be there. Yep.
Amazing. All right, buddy. We'll see you in a couple weeks.
Yeah, for sure. And then you'll see some of my guys there. You'll see. And how can I forget about Ro Montagna? Ro will be there at Power Slap 14.
Let's go.
And I mean, you know, there was. I'll leave you with this. There was like that, the little like kerfuffle between No Love and KO Chris with the weight discrepancy. Like, KO Chris didn't hit the right weight, and I think that really offended No Love. So there was like an 8-pound, you know, difference or whatever in what he was supposed to be. However they worked that out, I don't know. I think it was like, I'm just guessing, but I think it was like they gave him a percentage of KO's whatever or something. I'm not exactly sure. I'm just guessing. Don't hold me to that. But Zach, the dude that went against Ro Montagna, you know, Ro was giving up almost 100 pounds to that dude. Like, Ro's 280 something, and Zach is 370 something. Mm-hmm. Like, that's a substantial deal. And I think, you know, so Ro was a big dude, but substantially smaller than Zach. He was shorter than Zach and almost 100 pounds less than Zach. I think, again, just knowing what I know, I think Zach thought, and Zach was a nice dude too, don't get me wrong, but I think Zach, not a performer, not used to be in front of the crowd. As soon as he got in front of the crowd, he was just like, oh, holy shit. And then he was expecting to, like, he's so strong and it's not, I'm going to send this guy in outer space. And when he didn't put a dent in Ro, I think he mind fucked himself. And as soon as he smacked Ro for the first time and Ro didn't hardly move, that was the undoing of Zach right there. I think that just flustered him, and he was getting, you know, frustrated and this and that and this and that. So, but yeah, Zach's a great guy, but I'm very proud of Ro. Ro's my guy, and I'm super proud of him.
Yeah. All right, my man. I mean, you know, great to hear that Ro will be back. Yeah, be excited to see more of these guys unfold. Appreciate you joining us, and like I said, we'll see you in New Orleans, my man. All right.
Thank you, guys.
Take care.
Take care.
All right. Keep on rolling, ding, and we're a little bit behind the stories and tribulations. The guy's a walking encyclopedia of wrestling. One is Sin Bodhi, coming over to Power Slap and making his impression large. We are going to bring in the champ. I heard some rumors kind of on social media too. Could actually Babyface be the most underappreciated slap fighter in Power Slap right now? Let's ask him that question to start off. Babyface, are you the most underappreciated champ in Power Slap?
I don't know about that. But real quick, guys. I just wanted you to say hi.
Look who it is. The mullet's going strong as always. Kings, how you doing? Champ is here.
Let me go outside.
What's going on? You in Ohio?
Yes, I am.
Nice. What's happening in Ohio?
I'm coming right back. What's that?
What's happening in Ohio?
I just went to go see the homies.
Gotcha. Taking the belt on tour.
Yeah, a little bit.
Nice. How's life been since your victory this week?
Kind of wild, honestly. Can't really explain it. It's been a roller coaster.
That's why I got you here, man, is to explain it.
So, yeah, it was just a really, really solid week, especially with the whole team, doing really good how they did and in all their matches. It was pretty good for full scope as a team. As far as my performance, that was the best performance I could have put on. It was the best performance in Power Slap to date, I think.
Absolutely, my man. I mean, you went up there, you executed the game plan, and you've added to your legacy. Everybody that they put in front of you, you keep mowing down. I know I spoke to you post-fight, and you wanted the Cole Young fight. Is that still on your mind?
It's just, I want that draw. I don't want any question on my record ever to, that's always going to be in the back of my mind, that draw, because I thought I won that match, but I'm 100-fold better than that. So I want that kind of question out of my record.
Gotcha. So it's personal.
Yeah, it's nothing against him. I think the caliber I'm at now is just, pretty far ahead of a lot of people.
For sure. You talked about the full scope team, and first time we've actually really heard anyone in Power Slap, rep a team. So what does it mean to you to be part of that entire organization, and what kind of emotions and feelings does it bring along with you?
Well, for one, it's a big time family feeling for us. It's just we're all building this relationship together and working towards a common goal together to boost each of us up. So there's no doubt in my mind now after last week that I definitely made the right decision in signing with the right team. I'm very excited for the future. It's gonna be unreal. I mean, if it started like this weekend with, I was at Live nightclub and they brought out signs with me on it and sparklers and had my name on the wall. That was during Knock 2's set. We went and met Shaq at the Encore Beach Club during his DJ set. So it was, just unreal stuff like that. It's been happening the whole week last week, and to have that kind of performance after and during that week is just, put the icing on the cake. It's been awesome.
Babyface, I'm curious, was that how you saw that match going?
Yeah, me and Coach and Brandon will tell you too. We were always, leading up to this in camp, it was apparent that, even my neck workouts upgraded, and it was apparent that I hit another level in my training that, especially changing up my slap a little bit, getting a little more leg drive in there, getting a little more hips in there. That, that's where it starts from the ground up. So I feel like adding a little bit more technique and strength in my legs and hips and ankles, especially like flexibility wise, I work on that stuff constantly. It's been 2.5 years I've been working at, my craft now. And at this point, I'm at the top of the game. It's going to be hard to catch up unless you're a student of the game like me and my coach are, and my team now is going to be on that same level. You're going to keeping up. You're getting left behind in the dust really fast. I promise you.
Looking ahead at the future here, if it's not Cole Young, I mean, who else is it, man? If there's no more activity in the division, we don't know what's going on with Jules Scott. You just beat Azael. You beat Manny twice. Chris just lost. Andrew Fields is in lightweight. Provo, we haven't heard from. Frost, we haven't heard from. Zach Zane, Debo, Gross. Like, if it's not Cole Young, like, so if you take on Cole Young and can get through him, like, what do you do next?
I mean, Jules, the only one that's really been waiting. That's the only thing he wants is that title shot. So, Jules Scott, get it out of the way, see what he's got, you know?
Hey, that's an interesting one. If you can get Jules Scott to show up to Power Slam, man, I'd be impressed.
That's the only reason he would show up is for that belt opportunity. And, you know, if he got a good camp in, I'm sure he's got as good a shot as anybody.
Awesome, man. Corey, you got any last ones for the champ before we let him get back to his dinner?
What do you got going on in your hat?
Oh, it's just a little sprout I got from a kendama competition in Nashville. It's called Battle at the Border. So this sprout is like I guess like an EDM thing. They have them at festivals, music concerts, and it's just a good vibes kind of deal. Mm-hmm. So I've been wearing it ever since that kendama contest because it's been bringing me some good energy.
Yeah, awesome. And one last one for me before I let you go. If Robert Trujillo is able to take care of Dakota McGregor at 14, would you be interested in the first super mega match in Power Slap pairing up champ versus champ?
100%. We've been calling each other up for a long time. I think that would be, you know, if there's anybody to give each other the best match possible, that's the matchup right there to make at, you know, we could meet somewhere in the middle for that at 65 or something, you know.
Mm-hmm. Amazing, man. Are you gonna be in New Orleans? Maybe you'll be sitting there front row with the belt, and you and Robert can square off afterwards if that's the outcome.
Oh, I'm coaching, so
okay. Breaking news.
We'll see. I'm really excited for that experience too. Coaching in New Orleans is going to be awesome. I don't have to make weight, so I'm going to be chowing on seafood. Yeah, super pumped for this.
Nice, awesome. I appreciate you, man. Take care, and yeah, we'll see you in New Orleans then.
Appreciate it. Thanks, guys.
All right. Thanks, Anthony. Take care, my man. All right, ding. Anthony Babyface Blackburn just throwing it in last minute, like, hey, I'm going to be there coaching New Orleans. You know, up at this point, we didn't know who the coaches were. Do you have any insight on who the other coach is?
Off the top of my head, I do not, but I will find out.
You will find out. Awesome. Well, I'll let you keep working on that as we kind of evolve here. But like, I mean, last week was a crazy week. I mean, it was almost a blur in a lot of ways. Obviously, we started the Wednesday off with the Leaf, trade night, the Power Slap card trade night. We gave out a bunch of promo cards. We gave out, you had to be in attendance to get the Michael Michelle Brown, Paige Van Zandt to number 400 promo card. We gave away a bunch of those. Was an exciting time all around. Broke a lot of boxes. We gave away cards. I mean, hey, we even had Dumpling open cards and laughing and having a good time. Kind of, we thank all the strikers that came out for that. And, the fans really loved seeing getting their base cards signed by other Power Slap strikers. Was, an event that I'm not sure we're going to be able to duplicate again. I mean, it was one of those historic things, man, in the world's largest sports book, and, being able to have that backdrop for the trade night, it was absolutely phenomenal. So that started off the Wednesday, and then we came back for the tailgate party on the Thursday from Stadium Swim, which you guys were able to see a ton of fun, smiling faces. The weather was pristine. A lot of the guys in the pool and stuff was super excited. And, it was just good times all around, good vibes leading into the event. And the thing with the tailgate party that's nice is it's after the weigh-in, so all the athletes get to have fun. They're refueled, rehydrated, and able to get going. And of course, we keep, I don't know if we're a sucker for punishment or what it is, but we have to break up the fight week into, 4 different segments for us. Obviously we had the Wednesday, we had the Thursday, which we had the weigh-in show. Then we had, the tailgate party, and then the event itself. And of course, we've been breaking news ever since, as the stories have unfolded post-fight. There were the interviews, which are up on our YouTube channel right now. I think we've got 9 post-fight interviews up on our YouTube, and we've got more to come. And then, in both the influencer side as well as the high limits, I know you've got a ton of great interviews, Ding. Some of them have launched, some of them haven't. Do you want to kind of preview some of the celebs you were able to get a word in with?
Yeah, for sure, man. So gracious, honestly. Influencers, the celebrities in the house were very kind and gracious with their time, so we appreciate them for sure. But let's see, who did we talk to? Max Crosby, Bryce Hall, Roy Nelson, Colby Covington, Patty Pimblett, Joanna Young-Jacek, Cowboy Cerrone, Derek Stevens, the owner of the Circa, Michael Chandler, Edmund Shabazian, just to name a few.
When are those going to go out?
I don't know that they'll ever go out in their entirety.
Okay.
I think you may see pieces of them sporadically as we lead into 14 here.
Gotcha, my man. Gotcha. All right. Do we have our next guest ready to go?
Right now, I see a silhouette, not a person.
Well, that's not going to work. We got to get a camera on. Too funny. But what was it like interviewing Jelly Bean, or whatever her main name was, Jamelis?
Oh, that's right. Yeah, I did get Jamelis also. I'm sorry, I forgot her.
She even
what
go
was
up to
that
your
like?
belly button?
Say that again?
Did she even go up to your belly button?
No, she's very small. Feet? She's very small. I incidentally interrupted her while she was eating, which I apologized for. But she seems to love Powerside, man. She said it's very funny. She thinks that the knockouts are hilarious. And she said, I don't know if I should say it. I'll say it. She said that she'd love to if Dana would let her smack him.
If Dana would let her smack him. Yeah. So and it's in his plain English terms, Ding. If she could slap somebody, she would slap Dana White, is what you're saying.
Correct.
Awesome, man.
Which is crazy because they seem to have a good relationship.
For sure.
But, Lakuka has a question here, Corey. You got anything?
What's that with that? I'm trying to get Mr. One Aaron Turner in here.
So no Ronda? That was his question. No Ronda?
No Ronda. Ronda was at the event, but
I think he's asking about interviews.
Yeah. I don't know. Ding likes breaking the fourth wall, but Ronda was in attendance, and it was specifically asked that there was no interaction with Ronda by anybody. So that is that. So we weren't able to actually get to speak to her. So unfortunately, that didn't happen from us or any other media outlet. So,
but if I'm being honest, I do think we could talk to Ronda Rousey.
We'll
I don't want to guarantee anything, but I think we do have the ability to speak to her, and maybe one day we will.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, the guy's been waiting too long. Let's get him in here. We're gonna call him the original Oregon. What else rhymes with an O? I don't know.
Careful.
Let's bring him in. Aaron Turner, what's up, my man?
Hey guys, how's it going?
I'm good. How you doing?
Good, man. Good. Just ready for the next event. Just got to watch Power Slap 13 and just ready to go.
Yeah. What's your original thoughts of 13 and what you've seen?
It's kind of nice to see some new talent. Obviously there's speculation on, just wrestlers coming in, if they're going to take this serious or not. And, there's a few that have really stood out, I felt like, and some, that obviously need a lot of work. But, coming from me, I was also a guy that was brand new to this. So it's nice. It's really nice to see some new talent come in. And it was just good to see some of the guys that I've, gone to bond with, that I got to compete and came out winning. So it was a good event overall.
Absolutely. There was 2 fights in the heavyweight division. First one starting off, Zakir holding down that number 6 position, taking on Bryce Jones. What did you think about that match?
To put it in kind words, sometimes you can't be kind so much. It was just terrible. Overall terrible. I think everybody just knew what Zakir was going to do. I think, we've all gone through this. We've gone through meetings and protocols and stuff like that after weigh-ins of just like how we're supposed to strike. They did it with Wes, actually. So the fact that, Zakir did that to Bryce, it's upsetting because I know Bryce wanted to put on a show. He wanted to get an actual victory. Victories like that, are very upsetting. And so, I mean, the good thing is Bryce isn't, severely injured by a strike like that. That could really hurt, your opponent. So that's something, to keep in mind. I think Zakir just needs a lot of work. I think he got placed too high. And I think, he needs a lot of work to do. And also I heard that he's going to be in New Orleans. So, I mean, maybe he can redeem himself a little bit from this. But, I wasn't impressed at all.
Well, I'm going to poke the bear a little bit more here. He said that he was ranked too high. However, the updated rankings from Power Slap have come out. Power Slap has left him in that number 6 spot. They moved Bryce Jones back into the 10th spot. Did they get it right?
Absolutely not. No, not at all. I think Zakir should be taken off the rankings, if I'm being honest with you. But then again, a lot of people don't think I should be number 7, at the beginning. And obviously my piss poor performance, from flinching. So, I mean, the only thing I can really say is that I think just Power Slap really has a lot of faith in myself and Zakir that, we really bring in a lot of potential into the division. So I think that's probably why they did it. And I know, again, Bryce, if he came out victorious with a knockout, I think he would have been number 6 possibly, but they put him back at number 10. I know he feels some sort of way about it, because he didn't get to really show off, his skills and attributes. So I know that's very upsetting. So, I mean, so whatever Power Slap has it, I don't think he should be above me at all. I think just performance-wise, I think I performed better than he did from his first match. But again, it is what it is. I'm not focused on Zakir. I'm not focused on Bryce. I'm focused on just one person and one person only, and that's someone I'm going to be facing in New Orleans.
I actually feel like, outside of Zakir in the top 10 ranking, and I'll even say Bryce Jones, I feel like if Erica called and said any opponent, you're going up against Zakir, I feel like he's the most hated man in the division right now, and everybody would emphatically say yes. If they called you, which they may have or may not, I can let you give clarification if you like. If they presented that at Power Slap 14, would you accept it? And how fast would it take you to sign that contract?
Against Zakir?
Yeah.
I'd face anybody. There's nobody that I fear in my division. There's nobody that I wouldn't say no to. Phone call away, like, a lot of guys have said, you got to be ready when Erica calls you, because these opportunities, don't come around very often. So I'd easily sign that contract, and whoever wins the coin toss, whatever, but I can promise you, if Zakir were to club me the way he did, he better hope he put me down for good, because I'm going to come up and I'm going to fucking eat you.
Amazing, my man. The other fight on the heavyweight card, but James Seekman, who we've seen lose the better of 20 pounds, going up against Pono Paul, who we've seen add on 20 pounds. Pono Paul coming in at 263 for this match. So we've seen a 40-pound weight transformation between, these two guys. What do you think of that match and, the new versions or variations of each of these fighters?
I don't mean to correct you guys. I was with Pono for Power Slap 12. He was 253. So 10 pounds, still a big difference.
Okay.
I think he looked really good. I felt like his shoulders just looked a lot broader. I felt like he really carried his weight around very well. And for Seekman, I just the only thing I could really say is just the way he carried himself, the way he kind of walked out. It just looked like he wasn't the original James Seekman. Now, I'm not taking anything away from Pono. Pono was victorious. He's very technical with his strike, and he really performed. And, James, obviously not his night. And I think just the weight thing was honestly a big factor, for him. I understand he wanted to be healthy. He wanted to look like a champion, but he didn't look anywhere near champion. And I think he knows that. And, they're going to give him some time to get his redemption as well, to kind of bulk up a little bit. Because in this division, I understand it's 206 to 265. I just think, you want to be in between that 230 to 250 if you want to be, very dominant in this division. So that's just my input on it.
Aaron, always good to talk to you, my man.
Whatever,
last time we spoke.
I knew you talking mess about me. I know you said something.
Why do I always get to
go
shit?
ahead. Go ahead. You're good. It's good to see you.
The last time we spoke, we didn't know this, but we know it now. Wes Mena gets the title shot against Damian DeBell. When you reflect, do you feel like if you would have won, the same would have been true for you, or do you think it just makes sense with Wes because he's 4-0 now and kind of been on a run here over the last 12 months?
For me, no. I feel like I got a lot to prove in this division, and I say that because going from my first fight, I know everybody thought, you know what, this is just going to be breadcrumbs for Brian Ellis, because if he would have won, I think he would have had a title shot. And the fact that, I kind of shocked the division, created havoc. I knocked him out, and then I got moved into the number 7 rank. If I were to beat West, which I know, like, due to my flinching, it could have gone either way. Could have been a draw. Could have been I could have been a victor, but West won. So to answer your question on that, I wouldn't think so. I think I'd have to prove myself a lot more in this division. The fact I'm a rookie, the fact that I still have a lot to learn, a lot to work from. I wouldn't say if I were to beat West, I would be in that position. But right now, I'm not. I feel like right now I'm in the position to just hold myself in the top 10 at the number 7 position and earn my keep and get my redemption. So that's all I'm really focused on. But for Wes, 4-0, I think he's very well deserving of it. I know a lot of people would say different, and I just think it's like they're just not in the position that he's in. He's perfect. He's 4-0. I know Bryce is, undefeated as well. But I think just for West, it's an opportunity for him to really just shake up the division and, possibly be the new champion. So I wouldn't say he's not deserving of it. He very well is.
I'm not going to ask you about the Power Slap 14 main event because it sounds like you want to stay out of that one. But I will ask you about a match that I think is a foregone conclusion to take place at one point in time or another. Who do you think would walk away with the victory between Wes Mena and Pono Paul?
All right. Well, I think it would go to a draw. But also, I think somebody's going to get knocked out.
Come on, Aaron.
I'm not going to. Hey, man. I mean,
Can they knock them both? Can they knock each other out at the same time?
I mean, I'd love to see that. But, I think, I would love to see Wes put Pono down, Pono put Wes down. But, I'm pretty cool with both those guys, mainly Wes. And the reason I say that is because he really welcomed me into the after my win. Of course, we had to compete against each other, friend, foe, whatever. I know there's some people that won't fight each other just because of friendship. I don't believe in that because eventually it's like, okay, you're my friend, but what if you're champion? That's something I'm going after. So, friend or foe, we're going to be foes when we get on the stage, and then we could be friends afterwards. It's totally, up to them, honestly. So I can't really give you a full answer on that, honestly. So sorry.
All right, I'll let you crawl in the hole on that one, but I will ask you from a betting perspective, if you had to name the odds for Wes Mena versus Damian DeBell, how do you think they open up?
Wes is going to be the dog, honestly. I mean,
by how much?
I'd say about maybe 150, 180 maybe. I put DeBell at 230 plus, and I put Wes at probably 180 minus, probably around there.
Okay, understood. You mean it backwards, but I get it.
Yeah.
All right, cool. So you didn't dodge that one.
No, I didn't.
You just said something about you and Power Slap 14. Are you going to a Pirates game, or what's going on in Power Slap 14?
Well, if I'm ever going to go to New Orleans, it's for the food. But the second part would be I will be competing at Power Slap 14.
And there's a period, not a comma.
That's true. Till it drops, I'm going to be facing, the Buffalo Soldier, your little New York buddy is what I like to call him, because I know you like
whoa.
Yeah, you do. Bro. Yeah, you do.
Oh.
Don't backpedal now. Don't backpedal to your little homie now. I know you talk about him all the time. You praise Nate Bernard, man. It's fine.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, the New York connection.
The other stuff, we're gonna keep that for the next one.
That's impressive.
The New York connection.
Yeah.
But wait, hold on, Corey. You're missing the point. This is big news.
Right.
100% it's big news.
It's massive news.
It's me and Aaron versus you and Nate. That's what it is. That's what it is.
It is.
One's taking place the night before, me and you, and then Nate and Turner going at it on Friday in New Orleans.
That's
All
right.
Look, listen. Aaron's an honorary Canadian. I don't even want him anymore. There's nothing wrong with that.
You never
There
wanted
you
me in the first place. You made me a black silhouette, remember?
Yeah.
And what was that comment you said with my wings? I got a girlfriend in Vegas. I listen. People send me stuff that you say. I got people in New York too, so just understand that.
You were watching when I said that.
I was watching it, and I know people send me stuff too.
Wow. Well, congratulations. That's
Thanks,
big
brother.
news.
Thank you.
I didn't expect that to be announced here, so I'm a little lost for words. Corey, can you help me out here?
Yeah, Aaron, great to see you back, my man. I know, bodyguard versus bodyguard. This is something that you publicly talked about before. Why is Nate Bernard somebody other than just his ranking spot that you want to square up against?
I think just comment for Nate. He really set the standard of having football guys to come into this sport. At first it was bringing guys in that would sign applications to be like, hey, like we're gonna get you in the house, we're gonna train you, we're gonna help you out a little bit, we're gonna get this sport started. And he was kind of the odd man out. He didn't get to be part of the house. Just his resume and everything just looked good, and the way he's been, he was dominant. Coming in, he really helped. Like, okay, we need more, football guys, athletic guys, stuff like that, big built guys and stuff like that. So he really set the standard. So he's definitely been somebody on my radar, and I've been fortunate from Power Slap that without even, calling out who I wanted or mass texting Frank and Erica of who I wanted. It just happens to be that way. So I'm excited for your opportunity. I'm excited that it's going to be Nate. He's a guy that, performs well. He's been getting a lot better, I feel like. And it's going to be a battle for sure. Without a doubt, it's going to be a battle. So I'm excited for it.
Yeah. I mean, in a lot of ways, I think from a Power Slap perspective, both of you guys as recruits came into the league with relatively similar backgrounds. And so don't think that as an insult. I mean, you both weren't part of the show. You guys were direct, recruits of Power Slap, both with, football backgrounds. We talked off the top about kind of that, private security, bodyguard protection type of thing. A lot of similarities. I think Nate came onto the scene with a ton of hype behind him. And I think the same was for you when you took care of Brian Ellis. I think people were skyrocketing you, right up to the top and potential Damon DeBell after your first knockout. So it seems like there's a lot of similarities in this and really, says a lot about that. I'll say that kind of era of recruiting for Power Slap and what they were looking for recruiting both you cats. So nice to see it kind of come full circle and kind of going down in New Orleans. I mean, we're what now? We're 16 days away, just over 2 weeks away from when you're going to make it. How's your weight doing? Because I know you've been busy on the road.
It's been good. I've done a lot better this time, not going out and eating as much. So kind of just having my pre-made meals for my trainer. I'm still with my trainer, so I've just diet's been good. I'm about I weighed in about 270, 269. So I'm there. I'm not kind of just hustling to cut 10 pounds in a week. I'm literally right there. I'm satisfied that weight. If I were to land in New Orleans, I'd have no problem making weight. So I feel good. Body feels good. Mindset's a lot better than it was before. And I'm ready to go, and I know that Nate is as well.
I mean, looking back, we should have known, Ding. He was doing a water fast. We should have known something was up. Talk to me about that. Is that part of your strategy to lose weight, is to get on a water regimen for a certain period of time? How did that look?
The funny thing is I've never had that be you have to cut weight, you have to do this. It's either you need to gain more weight, and that's always been an issue. So I like to walk around at 270, 275 is usually what I like to walk around at. So when I got my first match, I was actually 273, and I dropped 10 pounds in a week at 263, and that's kind of been my magic number that I've hit my first 2 fights. So definitely something I do within 2 to sometimes 3 days, and I'm good after that. And then I'm back to kind of eating small portions and making sure that my strength is up to speed, because when you lose all that, you can lose a little bit of muscle if you're not in the weight room, you're not working out. So it's been a good regimen. It's a few times I do it, but other than that, it hasn't been as crazy as my last cut. I think my last cut I was 282 before I was supposed to face Seekman, but I ended up going against West. So I feel better this time.
Gotcha. Yeah, so I was referring to like earlier this week. I seen you posted that you were on the water fast. You're talking the same thing?
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh
okay,
yeah.
cool.
Yeah,
cool.
no,
All right.
definitely was. I'm done with it now, but I might do it again this weekend.
Gotcha. No, man, it's gonna be good, man. Excited to hear that you got another match, another opportunity in Power Slap. Look forward to seeing you. As always, Slap News is gonna be out there covering, everything along the way. So, stay good, keep training, and we'll see you make history once again, my man. You and Nate, this is gonna be legendary.
Of course, no, appreciate you, Corey, and dang, you're all right. I appreciate you too.
Take care, my man.
All right, take care, guys.
We'll talk soon.
All right.
All right, Ding. Show hasn't gone as planned, I wouldn't think. We had Mr. One Sin Bodhi join us and give us a lot of great insights, into his thoughts and his feelings. And I think a lot of people, a lot of viewers of this show, still don't really know who Sin is or understand what Sin has done as part of Power Slap. And, I'm sure a lot of people do understand from tuning in as well. But, he was he was the main recruiter in regards to getting all of these wrestlers into Power Slap. He's came on our show and he said before he, made upwards of 350 to 400 calls, swindled down to about 100 people that he presented to Power Slap. They selected 30 of those athletes, which then they brought in for a training combine, which I'm kind of might gaff this number, but somewhere between 10 to 12 of those athletes had matches at Power Slap 13 on the tape fights. And you got to hear from one Sin Bodhi what it was like having those athletes get up there and start, in emphatic fashion with one stunt marshal taking care of Dante Smiley. And, as these matches get released, Ding and myself and Mr. Ray D, the producer, were there live being able to catch these fights. And, there was some good fights. I thought there was a consistent theme. What you've seen on the live card, I think very much happened on these tape fights as well. So I think it's very much in line with what's happened here. And there's definitely going to be some surprises and some good prospects coming out of this crop. Is there any one person, Ding? I mean, without getting, into detail of results that haven't been released or anything, but is there one person who you think people in Power Slap should watch out for because they're going to, pop up here on the rankings real soon?
Well, you said rankings, so does it have to be a male?
I mean, or female, either or.
The first person that comes to mind is Hollywood Haley J. I think she's the total package. She's got the mouthpiece. She has the aura. The walkout. She soaks up that moment, and then to go up there and perform like that, right? Jamie Henshaw has went against Peta, and she didn't get dropped. And then this fight, which this is.
Oh, did I lose you, Ding?
Do you still have me?
Yeah, I got you back. Go ahead.
There you go. Sorry about that. So she drops Jamie Henshaw, somebody who hasn't been dropped before in her debut. So I think she's somebody to keep your eye on for sure. On the male side, a lot of the guys did a great job. Starting at the bottom here, Stunt Marshall, of course, but the question is always going to remain, can he take a shot? I think Ro Montana is another guy to keep your eye on. Great performance from him, win, lose, or draw. Juicy, another one that just has a whack on him, has a chin on him.
Just take the whole card, Ding. Don't worry about it.
Let's see. Ryan Kenny, Johnny Magna, I think they left a lot to be desired. Meaning we saw a lot of their attributes, but nobody was like significantly better than the other. And I think that we'll want to see how that plays out as they go on and fight other opponents. I kind of gave away the outcome without giving away the outcome, so I'll let you guys read into that the way you want to. A big one that I think sort of proves that like showmanship and like loud mouths don't necessarily mean anything is Esteban Saavedra versus Mirza Bahamovic. That was very quiet, unassuming, very respectful guy versus a guy that is a little bit more outspoken, confident. And I think that you saw that, being one way doesn't necessarily mean that it translates on stage. And so, again, not giving away the outcome there, but definitely, I think Esteban Saavedra deserves respect.
Yeah, absolutely. You know,
For you, what was your outcomes here?
yeah, I mean, one for me that was quite shocking. You know, kind of after the first training camp, we had Jackie Thomas, you know, the brother of KO Chris Thomas, and we seen training footage of her with a reminisce, you know, strike of KO Chris. I mean, she looked physically imposing. She looked very, very strong and dominant. You know, and I think in a lot of ways she turned a lot of heads very on and very early. She was someone who had a you know, MMA experience coming into it. I think a lot of people thought that this girl would do some serious damage at 145. But we've seen her and Abby Montez, you know, square up against each other. Abby Montez coming from Mexico, training in California and Mexico for this fight, you know, who's an active and current MMA fighter. Correct if I'm wrong, Ding, but that fight was made public today, right? The results or the ending of it, at least.
Yes.
Yeah. So I'll talk to that. So I think Abby Montez, I think, is one of those athletes who, with a couple more fights, I think we will talk in the same realm as, you know, having some name recognition as, you know, a Jackie Cataline. I don't want to put her, you know, I don't want to say Sheena yet, but I think she's gonna get some big opportunities and big matches here for someone who I think has the skill set to be able to challenge, you know, for the top of that 145 division once they kind of round it out. You know, she seems to kind of have that whole package. She's got a blend of, you know, charisma, even though her English isn't the best. But it's good enough to be able to, you know, resonate and connect with the fans. You know, she looks all the part. She came in incredibly lean, and she was able to go in and put on a, you know, incredible performance against Jackie Thomas, who I think is, you know, incredibly tough as well. I don't think Jackie Thomas is an easy is an easy competitor. So I think, you know, Abby Montez showed, you know, me a lot. And one fan favorite, you know, that's going to come from this big one for me was definitely Juicy. Juicy reminds me of Winnie the Pooh. I'll be honest. You know, this big, lovable guy. Do you remember the song that he came out to? He was, you know, just
Yeah, sure do.
What's the name of that song? Do you know?
It's, well, for most American people will know it as the theme song from the cartoon Arthur. Every day when I'm walking down the street, that was it.
Yeah, so it kind of came out very fun-loving, lighthearted, you know, just real likable guy when you look at him. You know, it was one of those things that was just, you know, exciting, and it kind of like set the tone. And even though it was a small crowd of like 100+ people, everyone was singing along to the song, and he's up there dancing and kind of waddling / dancing, whatever you want to call it, whatever he was doing. And I think he was, you know, a true OG and was able to, you know, pull it together. And so I think that's potential superstar in the making, and somebody who we haven't seen with such a big personality come out in Power Slap. So, you know, big props to him as well. Oh, and some lingering cough here on the way back on the plane from Vegas. But yeah, definitely think those two. What do you make of PETA? I mean, right now she's not boasting the best record in Power Slap. We've seen her go up against Chelsea Dodson in this match. You know, Chelsea kind of coming in last minute. We know PETA obviously had to go up to 125 from her original weight class of 115. I think in a lot of ways, the women are starting to be kind of interchangeable, and we don't have, you know, a defined division with defined rankings at this particular time. And PETA fighting up in weight, going up against Chelsea, and, you know, what transpired there, you know, a true freak accident, probably the most, you know, freakish accident per se up until this particular time in Power Slap. But where does it leave PETA right now? Do you think there's enough goodwill with her and Dana and, you know, everything around there that we see her back again sometime soon?
Yeah, you know, it's tough, man, because this is the second disqualification in a row. Out of respect, I don't think it's appropriate to release the footage, but there is a moment that we see where she's sort of expressing her frustration with her coach, and saying something to the effect of, and I'm paraphrasing, please. So she definitely didn't do it on purpose, but also her understanding of the rules was a little bit different. So she sort of expressed that they told her at some point being too deep was a problem, being too shallow was not a problem. So there was sort of this moment, and I don't know if you ever see it. I don't know if the broadcast will articulate it that way when it does come out. But there's this moment when Chelsea's nose shattered. She's down on the ground bleeding, and Peter's with her arms in the air. And some people looked and they're like, why is she celebrating? She just broke her nose. Like, that's illegal strike, whatever. Well, one, she didn't know at the time it was an illegal strike. She thought that was just par for the course. I hit her that hard and I'm going to win now. And two, in MMA, that is a stoppage. Even if it's gruesome, you get punched in the nose and it breaks and you can't continue. That's a TKO. So I think in her head, all of these things were good signs. So she was just celebrating what she thought was a win. She finds out later, and of course, her and Chelsea have spoken. There's nothing but respect between those two. So my thought is, if Chelsea, as the recipient of said injury, doesn't have, animosity or is being very aggressive or upset about it, then I don't know that any of us as spectators have that right either. So I think I'll give Peter grace. I think we owe that to her because she said, pretty clearly this was not intentional. Actually, Corey, you interviewed her. I don't think that's out yet, but
it's not. No.
What are some things that she said in that interview that you can talk about?
Yeah, I mean, obviously they'd say there was some confusion as to what was taking place there. She did echo the same sentiment that you just spoke about. I just think it's I'll say it's a tragedy for, I think, everybody involved. I mean, I don't think, we kind of talked about what you've seen on the main card is very similar to what, you've seen on the undercard, and the disqualifications and stuff that took place. I was just actually checking it out and pulling it up real quick here. So it was determined that it was a clubbing in round 3 from ref Jason Herzog. So that was the final decision and outcome. But from all accounts, I think obviously Chelsea was in, a lot of shock kind of in that moment. And, from what she echoed, kind of gave John Dodson a heart attack sitting there in the crowd and seeing his wife in the, the state that she was. But she seems to be in good spirits about it. I don't think from at least what I can recall that there's any, bad blood or animosity or anything, ill will between both of these strikers. I think they've taken it incredibly well. From both perspectives. Wouldn't you agree?
Yeah, I mean, kudos to Chelsea, man. That was a hell of a shot.
Yeah.
As a spectator in the crowd, I think majority of us kind of knew what happened as soon as it happened. Mm-hmm. And, I'm not going to lie to you. I looked right at John immediately because I know what I would do as a husband. And so he looked helpless and security wasn't having it. And I think even after she walked off stage, security wasn't having it, but then he also wasn't having it. Yeah. It was a chaotic situation. So kudos to him for handling himself like a true, husband should, trying to advocate for his spouse up there. And, kudos to Chelsea for being a good sport about it and not wavering. She's never once said, I'm not going to do this anymore. If people are going to, she's never taken that mind frame and sort of pursued that. So I think much respect to her, and hopefully we see her up there before the year's over.
100%. I'll address this real quick just because it's been asked in the question, and I'm going to be very diplomatic about this because quite honestly, as we stated, when the post was dropped, we don't know the full story. We'll try to get James on. We'll try to get the Crazy Hawaiian on. There's two sides to every story. We don't know specifically what happened. The video that was released was one segment or one moment of that interaction that took place on the second level of Circus Sports. It is what it is. It is what it was. The backstory we don't know. We'll try to get a more in-depth backstory or side to that. Other than that, there's really nothing else to report on at this particular time as it relates. Ding, do you have something?
I actually have something to add to this. So first things first, I think most people, it's pretty public that they've gone back and forth on social media. I mean, just quite a bit. In comments, made videos that get comments about each other. But I think one thing that I saw that came to light after this information came forward that I thought was interesting was that as James Siegman was walking out, if you guys remember, Crazy Hawaiian was up there. He was walking out for a lot of the matches with Isaiah, if I remember correctly, particularly for his brother's match. But aside from that, he was in that area. So as James Siegman was walking out, and there's video of this that we didn't take, so I know it's out there. James Siegman looks into the crowd at the Crazy Hawaiian and says, "Hey, Crazy, F you." I mean, he says the real word. And I don't know if the broadcast caught that or what, but that happened. And so I think I'm sure that wasn't the first interaction, and I'm sure that was not the last interaction before this took place. So when they saw each other privately with the Crazy and whoever was filming, and then James was, in theory, by himself, I think that all of that just culminated and they had their moment. And I think both guys were apprehensive because, of course, you don't want to get in trouble. But it was what it was. Some hands were thrown. Whether or not those connected from the video, we can't tell. And we don't know much more than that. But what I can tell you is that there was definitely some interaction prior to that happening throughout the fight week. It's impossible to avoid each other because I know the Crazy was behind the scenes while Hawaiian Hitman was behind the scenes. And so there's obviously plenty of opportunity for them to coexist and meet up. So
Absolutely. Otherwise, Ding, on the main card, what were some of the things that really stood out to you overall? General sentiment of the card in general, and any specific highlights?
I don't want to be this guy. Let me think. So what I said to you after the card was that I thought we took a few steps backwards as far as fouls returning. I felt kind of similar to how I felt at Power Slab 6. I thought that it was a pretty I felt like it was obvious that there was 3 months off. Like that was my sentiment. And I was like, DQ after DQ, right? The Wolverine situation with Russell, that's a championship fight that had a lot of stakes on it. People were really interested in that. For that to be the outcome, felt like Russell was either underprepared or we don't really know what happened as far as Wolverine went. They didn't do a great job at articulating that to the fan base and particularly the people who were there in person. Like, we didn't know, like, why was that the outcome? And then you look at Michael Michelle versus Ellie. Again, big implications in the match, and that's not what we wanted to see. Then, of course, you have the Zakir Bryce Jones, right? Like, we want to know what would have actually happened should those guys have gone at it. What would it have looked like if Zakir, got hit? If Bryce was able to continue more than one round, would that have looked differently? And, we saw them. I mean, that was interesting, right? The two of them kind of were going to go at it, even above and beyond the language barrier. I think Zakir could sense Bryce's frustration. Bryce obviously was irate. So the referees had to get in between them, and they don't even speak the same language. So, fight, like Dane always says, fighting's universal. It's got no language barrier. So yeah, that part of it was interesting. Hitman Dumpling, kind of uneventful. I think both those guys kind of showed their toughness. But that's not necessarily what we expect when we have super heavyweights up there. We expect somebody to be more powerful than the other. We expect those guys to knock each other down. And I think maybe that's just a bad expectation that we as a fan base have. So it's the same thing with Juicy and Micah. Somebody expected somebody to get knocked down. And it seems like more and more often the toughness is on display more so than the strength. So I think maybe we'll posture differently in the future. Anthony Blackburn, I mean, nobody does that to Isaiah Rodriguez, since John Davis won. Yeah. And I mean, the accumulation of damage, he carried himself like a professional and he chipped away and he put him away. And I don't think most people expected that to happen. I think that people probably had that as a decision, just given their history and the toughness. But it went how it went. Anthony Blackburn proved that he's just way above everybody else in that division at this time. And he talked about it. And what am I missing? Pono Siegman, right? Redemption is always important, but there was a flinch in there. So it's like, what if James had the opportunity to strike back? Would that have been different? We'll never know the answer because he flinched and Pono got a second shot, and that was all he needed. Luke Simons, Alan Klingbeil getting redemption there also. It's just, I think that those moments were great, but I think that they'll be overshadowed by the disqualifications and the sort of not clean moments that we saw.
Yeah, I hear you. I mean, I'm going to drop a stat for you right now that'll be quite alarming. Hey, we got the crazy wine in the chat. We only got 5 of the 19 matches that didn't have a foul. So we got 14 fights had at least one stepping or one clubbing strike on the offensive side. I'm not counting flinches because there's not a point deduction for a flinch. Obviously, it's still important and still detrimental to the striker as it was, James Sequin, Pono Paul, having to take that second blow, compounds, especially in the heavyweight division. It certainly does. And so I think, kind of echo that sentiment. There was a lot of kind of sloppiness on the side. And like you said, showing that time off. And, we've seen the commission. I don't know what to say. We've had these combines. We've had the commission very well involved the entire time. But, as you kind of alluded to, it's about getting those reps in. And, a lot of times you're putting these strikers up there to hit a human being for the first ever time. Like, let's think about that. The first time you're hitting a live human is up there because you can't spar in this sport. So, Ding, what were you saying, my man?
I think this is a good time to sort of talk about this briefly as we wrap the show here. I don't know what they'll do with this in post and as they produce it for the matches that took place on the undercard. I imagine you'll see this, but if you don't, I will tell you kind of what took place. I've never seen them, and if I'm wrong, somebody please correct me because you guys are great at that, but I've never seen them overturn something that they've called, whether that be a foul or even in the case of some calling it a clean strike, then saying review, then calling a foul, then saying after review, the foul was null and void again. Like, I've never seen that. And they did that several times in the early prelims. And I think there's two things that I can conclusions that I can draw from that in itself. The first is that they really are focusing on making sure they pay attention to these instant replays so that they make the right call, which is a step in the great direction. The problem is, I think you sort of give off the impression that as an officiator or an officiating group or cadre, you're not so sure of what yourselves and the rule set. And I think I would like to see them be a little bit more apprehensive about making those calls before reviews take place so that once they do review, they can make a true call, because it feels like it was just like everybody's scrambling. Like, what? Okay. And then this ref's going and bending down. Because remember, there's two refs on stage, right? One looking at the feet, the other one looking at their face and their hands. So it's that I think that communication wasn't fluid as it normally is. I know Mike Beltran was up there. He hasn't had a ton of reps. Maybe that has something to do with it. Maybe it didn't. I don't know. But I think it was interesting to see them kind of try to figure it out amongst each other. And you see those calls get called and then reversed. It was really, really unusual. And I think in one sense, it's a point in the right direction and it's a good thing. But in the other sense, you want to take a minute before making that call if that's the case, because you don't want to be wrong. Because now it's like, do you know the rule set? Are we consistent? Are we not consistent? Sometimes you're calling it, sometimes you're not. Sometimes you're calling it and they're pulling it. And I think that it takes the athletes off the game also. The people who are up there competing, I think, are like, wait, foul? No foul? What are you saying? Like, I don't think that that's their moment to comprehend all of that shit. They're just trying to compete. So when you start throwing, oh, you fouled. No, you didn't foul. Never mind. It's like, you're kind of messing with their head a little bit. And I'm not saying by any means that they're doing it intentionally, nor that they don't know what they're doing. But if you look at what I'm assuming you'll see in those prelims, it just looked like a little bit of chaos, controlled chaos. So everybody's kind of like, wait, what'd he say? Okay, what did you say you thought? Okay, what'd you see on the replay? And it was like, from one person to the next, it was a little bit different. So I think maybe that had something to do with the way that the night turned out. But I do think, with respect, of course, nobody's doing these things on purpose. I do believe if you look at Power Step 13, the last time I can remember a card that was that, what's the word I want to use? Foul prone was Power Step 6.
Yeah. I mean, it's definitely been a while. What's going on here, Ding?
So it looks like the crazies kind of alluding to what took place between the two of them.
Yeah.
He told me in DMs that it's on-site fighting words, and that's all he did. So I guess they were assuming when they met it was going to be time. Of course, the comment that James made on his walkout to Crazy Hawaiian, who was in the crowd, probably not a great way to sort of diffuse any situation. So I think this was just a pressure cooker. They needed to have their moment, and I anticipate that this is. I mean, I'm sure they're not going to exchange Christmas cards, but I do think that this is probably behind them.
Gotcha. Yeah, it was good to get that clarification for sure. You know, the one thing I thought was interesting, and I'm actually just kind of trying to watch it back here in real time, as we alluded to, and you know, actually, it is quite interesting. So I just confirmed it. In round 5, when we seen, it was round 5 or round 4, that Dane Viernes switched hands to his left. And what I thought was interesting is when that happened, Mark Smith did not switch sides. You know, typically the striker or the ref lines up on the same side as the striking hand of the athlete. And Dane switched from right until left. And I'm not sure if you noticed it in real time thing or not, but Mark Smith didn't switch to the opposite side, the side that Dano was on. And I wonder if that's protocol. Does the ref always stay on that side, or does he switch accordingly? Because that was the one where, you know, the first one where Dumpling was complaining about the high strike to his eye, which he had laceration and cuts on it. And I can confirm the day after, Dumpling's eye was quite bruised around, you know, his entire eye socket. And so I thought that was something interesting. I'm wondering if that's a technical flaw. Maybe we can check with Mark and ask him about that specific situation or not. Do you have any insight, Ding?
You know, I did see Dane switch hands. I did not realize, though, that Mark didn't switch sides. And I can't say for sure if the refs do stand on the side of the striker's hand, although it's possible they do. The only reason I say that I don't know that they switch is because the striker calls that in real time. So that would mean that Mark would have to move around. If he's standing on the right, striker says left on 3, Mark would have to move around the podium to watch. I don't think I've ever seen them do that. So I actually think maybe they're, you know, positioned in a specific place no matter what. And if you're asking me honestly, I think that position is to favor the broadcast side. So the broadcast is obviously filming, and you see this when they announce winners, it faces a particular direction. I think that that's probably why they place the referees where they do, so that there's no obstruction of the shot when it comes to the crane and the broadcast. And then in the arena, it's the influencer side.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm not sure. Something definitely to look into and see if there's any consistency there or not. But maybe next week's show we'll have an update for you along with that. So,
bro, I can't believe we just got off a power stop and we're already going into power stop again. This is bizarre. And then we get a little bit of a break from
no rest for the wicked. That's for sure, my man. So we get right back into it.
And critiquing his brother here.
Yeah, there he is. He is for sure. Yeah, but what can people expect in the week to come, Ding, before we let them go?
Yeah, you know what? All of this content will continue to get pushed out. Our versions of the shots that you see, whether that's Abby Montez, Jackie Thomas, some of the bigger highlights of the evening you'll see on our page from our own perspective. Maybe we'll tease some of the walkouts. I mean, I'm not really sure if people are so interested in them, but if they're good, we'll drop them. But you'll see a lot more of those I'll call them celebrity influencer interviews we did. You'll hear some of the stuff that they said. I think a lot of it's very interesting. And everybody really seems to be fond of it and talking really nicely about it. So I was actually genuinely pleased with the way that the celebs and influencers reacted to some of the questions.
Yeah, I mean, it was, we a lot of talk about it being a smaller crowd, but I think it was definitely a ruckus crowd. I mean, I don't think the fighters would have known anything different, being up there on stage, because there was a lot of excitement and enthusiasm. And even beyond on seeing some of the influencers and stuff as well, like they seemed a lot more into it now than they were in the past. When one of the kind of the knocks before was they just kind of showed up, and weren't really engaged and involved. And I know you spoke to a lot of them, and they were super passionate and excited about being there and was really enjoying the night overall. Wonder if Boisvert will ever compete again. Do you want me to take this one, Ding?
He's Canadian, so take it away.
He's Canadian, yeah. I don't want to say never again. I don't think we see him anytime soon, to be quite honest with you. I don't want to lead anybody down a wrong path, but from the information that I know, there's not a lot of communication between Josh Bovair and the brass of Power Slap. I think there's a mutual respect to allow Josh Bovair to figure out whatever Josh has going on in his life. I think that door is open. Should he want to make a return back? I think the impression that he had on the brass, warrants another opportunity for him in Power Slap. We know that he's had opportunities to fight and compete and, hasn't followed through in particular matches. But from all accounts, Josh seems to be quite silent at this particular time. And, I think for a lot of the athletes in that 155 division, right now, I think he's kind of dormant. I didn't notice the rankings came out, and I'm assuming he probably still held his same ranking. So obviously the brass of Power Slap still believe there is some sort of opportunity that we'll see him. But, we just haven't heard from him in a number of months. And I know there was a point in time, correct me if I'm wrong, Ding, I want to say it was around February, March, that there was some communication between, Josh and us. And it seemed like things were, potentially on the, back on the right track. But I think things have dried up kind of since. And Josh is seemingly, missing in action in this moment. But I think for a little bit, it's still going to be on pause as the rest of the division kind of figures itself out. And the division will move on. And we'll see, if or when he gets the opportunity to kind of slot back in, kind of where he fits, in that mold. So
closing the show, here's what I will say. Since you guys are talking about some of the OGs here, Static, AJ Hints, as mentioned, unfortunately, I'm not the guy that's going to give you, spoiled matches. It's not my area. It's not what we do here. We're very respectful of everybody. Obviously, Aaron Turner announced his own fight. That's his prerogative. He'd like to. Dwayne Crespo says he's fighting Makini Manu. Makini Manu says he's fighting Dwayne Crespo. So if that is the case, great matchup for Power Slap 14, and we'll see. But what I can tell you is you will see some people you have not seen in a while on Power Slap 14. And I can't tell you how you'll feel about it. Some of you, if you're newer fans, will not know who these people are. You'll never have seen them compete if you're a new fan. But they're throwback OGs, and you'll see them at Power Slap 14. That's all I'll say about that.
Yeah, some people will be surprised. I think some people will be incredibly happy because I think there's some fan favorites there. Whether you're from the South, whether you're from, the Ozarks, whether you're from Colorado, I think those are the hints that I'll give you. The area of Colorado, you're going to see some cats back that you haven't seen in a little while. And I do think there's going to be some bangers and some honestly, some ranking implications, some number one contender shots here. And, we kind of talked about it, a little bit at length now. The heavyweight division is going to continue to work itself out. It's been one of those things that, has gotten interesting this year with the cats coming off road to the title season 3 and those guys, lumping themselves together. And now we're starting to get a little bit more separation. Your Wes Minas, Pono Paul, James Seekman, Aaron Turner, Bryce Jones. There's still a lot of intriguing matchups there as well. Zakir kind of thrown in the mix, confirming that he's going to be at Power Slap number 14. I think you guys will be incredibly excited as it relates to, who he's fighting. And then Nate and Aaron, are also going to kind of work themselves out in that mix to kind of see the direction in career where these guys go. And, I think it's always exciting. The heavyweight division is one that can lead to a lot of knockouts. And, without saying, anything more or less about it, Wes Minna taking on Damien DeBell. And in a lot of ways, Wes Minna 4-0 right now has been the underdog, and he's been slept on every single time. And I think if, one guy above anybody else, getting to see Wes Minna during fight week in Abu Dhabi, just the calm, cool, collected demeanor that he has going into fights, the guy that has a ton of belief in himself, a guy that's probably in, the best place in his life that he's ever been. If there's ever an opportunity for Wes Minna to step up and take on Damien DeBell, I think that opportunity is now. Damien DeBell has reigned atop of the division for a very, very long time. He's been an absolute specimen. I think Anthony Blackburn, has done a lot for his case with his victory over Azel Rodriguez to kind of put him in that same conversation as Damien DeBell. Damien DeBell has just been lights out in Power Slap and has been a guy that's been untouchable. But I think Anthony Blackburn did a lot for his stock this past event to kind of creep into the same conversations as Damien DeBell. And so we're going to see, that on full display. Wes Minnick come from Atlanta, Damien DeBell coming from Florida. I'm not not fully up on my geography, but I knew New Orleans is kind of in that southeast quadrant of the United States. So I'd expect both these guys, their fan base, are going to travel well. Wes Minna, has said to me that he's going to have, over 100, supporters on his side in the crowd. I know he's been scrambling to get as many tickets as possible as he can for his supporters. And so I think that match is going to be a culmination of, a lot of excitement, enthusiasm, and the night to come. And, the throwbacks, as you talked about, is going to touch kind of those warm feel sides of, multiple road to the title and fan favorites along the way. And, seemingly right after with, announcement of Zakir, I believe, correct if I'm wrong, but I believe Sinn Bodhi said potentially seeing Steph Marshall back real soon as well, that we're going to get some of these newcomers here in New Orleans that are going to continue to have some excitement. And should they be victorious at Power Slap number 14, can push themselves up into the top, top 4 or 5 in some of these divisions, I think, and kind of be one step away from a title shot and opportunity. I think with Power Slap, I think we've come to, know that we got to expect the unexpected. This is a sport that one strike can change anything. And, it's an incredibly hard sport to bet on. And if you do, you're playing with fire. But if you're wise,
just ask Bryce Jones. Bryce Hall.
100% Bryce Hall. Any given night. Luke Simon, Alan Klingbeil. If you look at what that line opened and where it closed, Luke Simon was heavily favored in that match. There might have been some recency bias along the way, but it's just one of those things where you never know what's going to happen. And even take another step further, Michael Michelle Brown, Ellie Dempster, disqualification, still a loss on the Vegas line. If you bet Ellie on that match, you would have been, in the money on it. So we'll see. This thing is,
I'll leave you with a Luke Simons quote.
Yeah.
This is better than Waffle House. That's what he said to me after he lost. I ran into him at Palace Station cashing his check, and he said, I've already won. This is better than Waffle House.
Awesome thing. All right,
it
man.
Sounds like Marvel Trade Night's getting a little crazy over there, so you got to go.
It is, dude. All right, man. Next week, same place, same time. Appreciate it. Take care. Watch the socials over on IG. We're dropping a ton of great content that you haven't seen. We've got the cupboard stocked, and we're going to keep on putting out the wrap-up from Power Slap 13, and we're going to get into Power Slap 14 pre-fight interviews as well. Take care. Until next time.